as a result, we're 9 days away from what is scheduled to be Lula's inauguration as president. The courts have certified him as the winner. There is, I would say, almost no real movement, any institutional signaling of any kind that any institution, including the military, is prepared to overturn this election. Bolsonaro's vice president, who is a general, a retired general, a very influential member of the military, Hamilton Morale, from the beginning was meeting with and helping to facilitate the transition to the next government, which will be Lula's government. So if you ask me what probability I give to the likelihood that Lula will in fact assume office peacefully on January 1st, maybe there'll be some outbreaks of violence in isolation, but by peacefully I mean no systemic or organized violence to prevent it, I would put it at 98 or 99%. I see no signs whatsoever that anything's going to happen that will impede that. Not talking about whether it should or shouldn't happen for the moment, just talking about the fact that I think clearly it is not going to happen. Lula, by all appearances, will indeed become the president on January 1st. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about who Lula is, because I frequently hear American conservatives saying two things. Number one, that the election was fraudulent, and number two, that Lula is a communist. So I just want to address those 2 points. And some of you may not want to hear this because it may not be what you think, but I've said from the beginning that a purpose of this program is not to come every night and try and tell you what you want to hear, because I don't think there's any value in that, but to tell you what I see as the truth and what the evidence shows, even if it kind of forces you to disagree or re-examine your own views. That's part of what I've always asked of my audience, was not to expect me to reaffirm what they want to believe or flatter or vindicate their views, but to give you my best views with the most persuasive evidence I can and let you decide for yourself. So, first of all, on the question of whether there was fraud, I think it's very, very difficult, and honestly I'm kind of confused about how someone who is an American observer of Brazil from afar, who doesn't speak Portuguese, who's not particularly familiar with the intricacies of the very complex politics of Brazil, could speak so definitively and assertively by claiming that there was fraud in the election. And that's something that you would really need a lot of evidence for in order to credibly assert. And I think that if you're somebody who wants to believe there was fraud, or that you've heard people that you trust, like Steve Bannon or others, telling you that there's fraud, you should be unwilling to believe that unless you have in your hands or have access to concrete, convincing evidence that there was systemic fraud enough to make the real winner of that election, Jair Bolsonaro, end up as the loser. And I don't think that most American conservatives that I've heard asserting this seem to have the level of knowledge, let alone the evidence necessary to justify their making that claim, at least so definitively. I can understand asking the question. And I think it, like anything, like racism accusations or anti-Semitism accusations or anything else like that, if you just start making those kind of claims every time you lose an election, the way American Democrats have started to do. 2000, the election was stolen, they say. In 2004, they were convinced Karl Rove stole Ohio from John Kerry using debold machines that they say he manipulated. The next time they were declared the loser in 2016, they said Trump wasn't the legitimate president. 2/3 of Democrats believed that the voting machines had actually been hacked by Russian hackers and that the votes had been changed from Hillary votes to Trump voters. It's almost like a reflex now that when Democrats lose elections, they say that they were the victims of fraud. And I think if you're going to do that, it's going to mean that when there's actually fraud, you're going to have a lot harder time getting people to believe you, because every time there's an election that you lose, you end up claiming that they're fraud. That's the first point. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update. Catch our full shows for free, live weekdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Rumble, and join our locals community at greenwald.locals.com for all of my written journalism, exclusive after-show Q&As, and more.